I'm not gonna lie, I had a bowl of cereal.
I'm pretty hungry. Okay.
What? Oh no.
This is like so bad. It's just sloshing in there. It looks like pasta in water. I'm hungry. I'll eat it.
Okay. I'm not eating this. You know, let's just forget it
Okay,
happens.
do we need forks or spoons? Wait, I feel so short next to you. Have you always been this long?
Why does everyone say that?
No, for
no,
real.
it's because
I am really short.
It's
then.
because my head's huge. Yeah. This table, I swear to God. So, okay, where do we start the conversation? I don't really know. Like, how did I reach out to you about this?
Yeah. Okay. I think it was the day you were eating Catalina Crunch. You were like on your cereal only diet. You still are. You're like eating.
Yeah, I love how you say was.
Yeah. This is as if this was. I had hoped maybe you'd like recover out of this. This was maybe like
no,
a month
I'm
ago,
still like
too.
in the trenches, like big time.
Yeah. This has been a long time, but this was in the works for a bit. Like I had texted you.
Because at that point it was just like grazing on cereal in between meals.
Okay.
Now it's just like cereal only all day.
Because I'm
every
a
day.
grazer on cereal. Like cereal is my snack.
Yeah.
It's my breakfast and then my snack and then maybe my bedtime snack.
Yeah.
Like my boyfriend will be like, I guess we have to have cereal in the house, but like three different kinds.
Yeah.
You can't just like it's mixing cereal is so good. I'm like fueling your.
Yeah. No, stop. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
No.
literally gonna
Talk me out of
this
it.
pasta. But okay, it
I'm not
surprised me
kidding. Like that's going to happen.
that you're gonna eat cereal.
Yeah.
And you're gonna push that aside. No, it surprised me that you were eating Catalina Crunch because I was like, oh, Catalina Crunch is like eating disorder food.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I know some people eat that just to fuel for like the gym or whatever, and I had it for the first time at my friend's like a year ago in New York because I never really got into like that type of food. Like I actually like wasn't a protein bar girly, whatever, and it tasted so bad, and I was like, wait.
See, the problem is I actually like it.
But I think you,
It's like is bad.
Yeah,
like
but you've built up an enjoyment for it, which is like fine. Yeah, but that was what spurred like our conversation into like, oh, you're eating that, and then also like, just food in general. I think we got into like our previous / current like weird eating habits.
So I think I guess start with how we became friends.
Right.
Because we met. You were like. We met a long time ago in comparison to like all of my friend group.
Yeah.
I feel like you were you're the first like internet friend I made in real life.
Actually,
for sure.
I feel like that's true because like I watched you gradually get like bigger and bigger online, and I was like, wait, look at him, like whoa, because we were Twitter mutuals for a while.
Yeah.
Like, but this was back when I was living in Chicago, and like.
And this is back like when I was like going down.
Yes, and I remember thinking like. Wondering if you were okay, actually.
Really?
Yes, because I knew you had tweeted from the hospital, and then I was like, yeah, he looks like really thin. But also, like, can we just acknowledge that like half of food Twitter is like an eating disorder space.
Like
it's
all
like
of it is.
it was like girlies trying to recover, girls very openly eating like one date and one nut, and then being documenting it. And at the time, I remember kind of like feeling simultaneously comforted by this, but then also like, oh, this is like messed up.
So I started my kind of this era of online presence on Twitter, like with food. I started posting on Twitter. I started posting from my dorm. So I was like cooking in my dorm.
Okay.
And
this is like sophomore year for you?
Freshman year.
Okay.
So I had got this little like hot pot thing on Amazon, and because we were like frozen in the dorms, like we couldn't go outside because it was so cold.
Right.
So I started cooking and just like posting it on Twitter, and people caught on. And so, but I was also like big time battling like a crazy like spike in like the birth of my OCD at that time.
Okay.
Because I was like in a really bad living situation with my roommate.
Okay.
He was like super abusive.
Oh.
And, like super just like fucked up in the head.
I don't think I ever knew this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after that semester, that like spring semester, I moved home to California.
Okay.
And we were like shopping around for this apartment.
Yes.
And then I guess I like throughout that summer, because at that point, like when I was moving home, I like was completely unaware that I had like an eating disorder.
Okay.
It was at that point, it was at a point like intentional, but by that point it was unintentional. Like it was not on my mind and I just wasn't thinking of it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I feel like being controlled by an eating disorder when you're unaware of it is 10 times more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't know how to stop it.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
can't catch yourself in your tracks.
It's like so crazy because I feel like we have such opposite stories.
Really?
Like hearing that from you, we'll get into it later, but like that sounds so scary to me. Like
It's terrifying.
just like completely like losing your way.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think there's no like way to say it that's not like incredibly corny, but you really just become like a completely hollowed out shell.
Yeah.
Like the deeper you go, you just like become, you know, you lose so much of your like cognition, you
Yeah.
lose so much of your personality, and
Yeah.
it took me like years to get that back.
Yeah.
So it's just like bizarre, and I realize more and more every day like how bad it was.
Right.
But in the moment, I had no clue. I thought everything was just fine.
Right. Right. And how like you were probably limiting so many things for yourself, and like until you got those things back.
Well, I was just incapable of anything.
Right.
Really.
Did you, when you moved back to California, like, did you see anybody but family? Like, what was your day-to-day life like? Like in the pits, sort of?
Yeah, in the pits, I think, no, I didn't have any friends. I was just alone all summer, cooking, shopping for like apartment stuff. And I was already like, you know, going downward
Yeah.
at that point. But yeah, by the time I moved home, it just like rapid fire got so much worse. I was just alone all day. My parents were like going to Maui for, you know, like weeks at a time, and I was just chilling at home.
Also
And-
resonates with me. Like when no one's like quote unquote watching you, even though we were like adults at that point, it's
Yeah.
like it feels like it's so free. Like nobody will notice this.
Yeah,
Nobody
like
will.
no one's gonna get in my way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's like just that feeling of like being in total control is like all that I feel like you crave.
Yeah.
It's that.
Absolutely.
And also like the internet community, like Twitter, like during this time, I remember you posting like beautiful food and stuff like that. Like it's such a weird experience to have people like lifting you up and like praising you online for what you know is like super fucked up and unhealthy. But having people say you look nice, or having people compliment your food, and like making friends that way, it's just like you're getting all this like affirming feedback for this sort of like unhealthy negative lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it just like feeds itself.
Yeah, and for my case specifically, I think that what made it like it ripped me to pieces when I like was being told that I had an eating disorder, because I just like couldn't
You didn't
believe it.
believe
I
it.
was like, I love food so much. I make art out of food. This is like my passion.
Right.
And like I had no idea that that's what my eating disorder was.
Yeah.
It was like controlling my brain, and I just thought it was a positive thing. So
From my perspective, all I thought was like you looked thin, and I didn't know like. But then I was confused because I was like, but he's always cooking and he's always eating, so like maybe he's just, you know, naturally that way. I don't know.
But so when I moved home, I was having a bunch of like issues with my gut. I was
Okay.
having a bunch of like digestive issues. I also just kind of wanted to blame my weight on that. Because my parents were really worried. My parents were like worried about my weight. And so I was kind of looking for something to blame it on, I guess. And I didn't even know, you know, I was just kind of like subconsciously doing that. But I was like, I think I have IBS, or I think I have something wrong with my gut or
Right.
something. And it's just like making
Which
me
people
lose
like
weight.
rapidly lose weight that way.
Yeah, so
it's
it was just like
pop out.
my brain like defaulting to that as a way out. So my mom was like, "Okay, let's get this figured out then." So I went to a doctor. I got my like microbiome tested and everything, and it came back with like a bacterial growth in my gut.
Okay.
So
did they tell you, like, give you instructions on how to heal properly, or
I went on this like entire, because I was working with like a naturopath.
Okay.
So I went on this like natural medicine like regimen and
Okay.
everything, and
do you
yeah,
think this like fucked you up worse, or like it
I don't know.
fed it? Yeah,
I don't know.
But at the
I
time,
mean-
you also didn't think you really had an eating disorder,
Yeah.
too. So it was just like,
So I don't know, but then, so I guess fast forward a couple months, moving back to New York, I was like, oh my God, there's nothing stopping me. Like I can do whatever I want now.
Yeah.
And so I was even more carefree by that point.
were your parents like hesitant to even like let you move?
They were
Like,
scared.
yeah,
They were scared.
yeah,
My mom, I could tell, like just like thinking back on it, I can tell that she was like scared
Yeah.
for my life.
Yeah.
But they let me move in and
Yeah.
just like hoped things would be okay.
Right.
And so I started school that semester. Then the next month, I was going through like just everything that could possibly go wrong with my health started going wrong just miraculously for no reason. And I couldn't figure out why. I just like my face started like swelling like crazy. I was not fainting, but like, you know, seeing black and shit all the time. I like couldn't think at all.
Right. Your cognitive function at that point must have been so like
I was gone. I was literally gone.
Yeah.
Like, I would go to class and my teachers would ask me a question and I would be like looking at my paper, like stumbling my words, just like completely lost.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like just dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I called my mom and I was like, I don't know what to do. I just need help. Like this was after like a month of just like trying to push through it and hope that it would get better. I was like, I need help. And the next day she was here. She flew from California. Yeah. So yeah, that was that. And then, the story just goes like, I checked into the hospital, stabilized, and then moved home. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like, I guess that's all just to say that it is just 10 times scarier when you don't know how bad it is.
Right.
Like just thinking like retrospectively, it could have gone so much worse.
Because just hearing, you essentially only had realized it was a problem when you hit like rock bottom. And like that completely like, that's so scary to hear. And even just imagining like, I went to Fordham, like I like know the culture, like I understand, you know, like I was
no one's gonna like call you out or like help you.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it's the type of thing where, like, in college, you are very much alone.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a problem...
especially, like, living alone,
literally
I don't have
alone.
a roommate. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if people had this happen to me in college, I would have gotten more support. But even then, I remember, like, their psychological services was shit. Like, they don't... I don't know. It's just like many universities. Like, they're not... You are keeping, you know, accountable, like, yourself, holding yourself accountable for things. And when you lose control or you can't, like, you're pretty much fucked. Yeah, and at that time, I feel like I remember being so online and like I don't think either of us really had a lot of like friends. Like, I don't feel like I had people noticing what was up with me because people weren't seeing me. Like, I don't know. I can talk more about this. Like, I can like tell my story, but I don't want to also like...
No. I think that's like perfect segue into your story.
It's just so different though.
So what was the time frame for you? Like, was this going on at the same time?
Similar COVID times. So I was like, I reached a point where I was like, 23, 24 dealing with this. And it felt like I was too old to have this issue. Like, I was like, I'm an adult. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And I think that's why when you talk about this lack of control and losing like yourself completely and not knowing, I think my like hyper awareness of, because it was not at all as severe as yours at all. Along the way, I was like, I knew exactly what I was doing and I knew exactly like that it was bad for me, but I was trying to be so controlled about it so that people also wouldn't take notice. And then also that I could still have a job, live my life.
Do you think that because you had so much control over it that you thought it was less of a problem?
Yeah, like I can definitely speak to, I thought like, I sort of was like jokingly trying to lose weight. Like, this happened to me pretty much, it's like embarrassing that this is like how this started, but it was sort of through like dating someone. I was like very trapped in like my mother's house during COVID and just like depressed and like sad. And I was not really like that, like I'm very like anxious, but I wasn't prone to being like super low. And I just like needed to get out of the house. And I like eventually started dating, and I started dating this one guy and he became my boyfriend for like almost 2 years. And he used to like photos on Twitter. This is back when you could see likes of like anorexic girls. And we would like go on a date and it would go really well. And I was like, wow, like I like him. Like he's probably gonna be my boyfriend. And then I would come home and I would check his likes, like self-sabotaging. And I was always seeing like really thin, like e-girls and this community of like young women who like seemed to like a lot of the same stuff that I liked. This is like flash forward, this is Twitter. They were all into like Red Scare, the podcast. Like, I don't know. And everybody had like an eating disorder and everybody was like chic and thin. And like, I was just kind of like, well, I want to be a part of this. Like, there was something in me that was like so just bored also, and like not seeking some form of control. Like I was not able to move out at the time. I was like working an internship at NPR. I felt like my life had stopped. Like it was so stagnant from what it was in college that like having control over what I ate and like feeling obsessed about something was like the only thing that I felt like kept me afloat. Like it was so weird it's so weird to like look back on, because it was like the earliest thoughts I had was like, I'll just lose like 5 pounds, like whatever. And I mean, at the time, like, it's like when you're already a small person, like 5 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever, like makes a difference. And I was like, oh no, like I will just get to like a certain weight and it'll be fine.
You know, that's really interesting because, well, 2 things. I lived a very similar experience during COVID, like in high school. So I felt exactly the same way. It's just like I felt stagnant. Like I felt like just nothing was going on. And I needed, I guess you just made me realize that like I was seeking control in something as a sort of obsession.
Yeah.
And it went away after a while, but it circled back when I lost control over like my roommate situation and everything. That's when my kind of OCD came back.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting. But what's also interesting is that I had the exact same mentality, because I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I was like fat. I was like,
right. You did. Yeah.
Over the course of my eating disorder, I lost over 100 pounds.
Which is like crazy for me to even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over 100 pounds.
So in high school, like you were like clinically fat considered.
Yeah. And well, this is like, I live clinically fat.
I don't even know like where that came out of. You were fat. Like, let's just,
But first of all, this has been it's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, it's like I've only ever just
That's how you had told me. We were at dinner and you were like, I was a fat kid. And I was like, oh, but like chubby, like baby fat? And then you were like, no, like I grew up bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's all I've ever known. And all I've ever known is like, I hate this. I hate being fat. Right. So it's like, you know, you don't really know how to get out of that once you're really skinny.
Yeah.
You don't know how to like stop that, because I've never thought anything else.
If you had resented yourself for years for looking a certain way, like it's like it makes logical sense to you to like, well, I'm gonna fix this and change this.
Yeah. So but I had the same mentality. It was just like, okay, I want this eating disorder, but I can turn it off when I get there.
Yeah.
That is like what I would tell myself. Like I can turn it off.
Yes.
And it's
like
so
I am
we like
early,
lived the same like experience in that first.
But it feels like you surpassed me and I'm like early you. That's interesting, because it's that I can stop anytime I want mentality. Like it was always like.
And that's what makes you think that it's like not really a problem.
Right. Because it doesn't, I mean, it's like, at the time I wasn't weighing myself for a long time either, so like I was just noticing like clothes getting bigger and like first signs of like a few pounds of weight loss. It's like, oh wow, that's like real. Like I was kind of like getting steps became like a form of like abuse. Like walking to and from places, it was like, no, I must take the long way everywhere. I must like if I could take a train, I should just walk. Like and I used to love walking. Like I would go on walks just because, and then all of a sudden walking shifted into this like punishment. And like it would be winter time, and I remember thinking like, how am I gonna walk? Like, and I have deep anxiety. Like it's like 20 below and I'm like gonna bundle up and walk because I like need to walk off what I ate.
Oh my God. It's
like fucking ridiculous. Like to think like that, but then also it's like,
because it's not your brain anymore. It's like it is so. Again, they all say it, and when you're in the position of the eating disorder and someone's telling you like this isn't you, this is like a different voice in your head, you're just like, yeah, right, fuck off. Like it just sounds like they're gaslighting you.
Yeah.
But it's like when you have the ability to look back and reflect on the position you're in before, you can like it really is the truth. Like it's not you. It's not you speaking. It's like a different voice in your head.
No.
So it's logical to like just go out and 20 below, whether it was me rationalizing it, you know.
But that also isn't like what my body was used to, like ever. What was that?
It's just like an alert. It's 8 o'clock already.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh wait, I have to.
Okay.
Okay, stop.
Anyway,
Okay.
wait, we were in the middle of like really good thoughts.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, we were talking about how it was like we thought we could turn it off.
There have been so many people on Twitter trying to like investigate whether or not like I'm like sick or have any issues. Like I've had comments where people would say like you're withering away, but then I was like, oh, it's like showing, it's working. Like
yeah, because it's again, and it's like something in your brain that feeds off of it.
Right, and I think it was so like after
it's an addiction.
Yes,
That's something that I feel like you think of eating disorders so differently when you treat them as an addiction. Because that's really what they are.
Right.
I mean, compare the behavior to an alcoholic or, you know, a drug addict.
Right.
It's the same behavior. Your brain, like, chemically is driven to do a specific thing that you either know or don't know is, like, ruining your life.
But I didn't seem or look or, like, even probably act, like, sick to anyone. Like, I think I've been able to sort of just, like, I socially eat, like, I'm extremely normal, quote unquote. And I think that's also like something where people see like the quintessential videos on TikTok of people with IVs in their arms and they're hooked up and they're dying. And it's like, that's not what I ever experienced. It's like one continuous intrusive thought.
Yeah, because I think, you know, there is like a period, it's almost like a honeymoon phase, if that makes sense. You kind of get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize how it can just keep spiraling downwards.
I guess in many ways,
end up with the IV in your arm.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think I ever left that phase. Like, it's weird because it's like, I felt like I was hyper aware of, like, I was like, oh, I reached kind of the way I almost always wanted to look. People found me hotter. Like, I was complimented more. I was like, it just became.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's kind of looping back into addiction. It's like, but I'm so much more fun when I have a drink or something like.
Yeah.
It just, you rationalize it.
Yeah. And then having this big online presence, it's like, I remember my sister saying like, this isn't good for you. And like, just being, I don't know if you felt like this, but you get so incredibly defensive when someone points something out.
Oh my God. My parents, I remember one time in Maui, they had my my sister come to me and just like confront me a little bit about my eating because they weren't getting through to me.
Right.
And I just like got so pissed. But I think for me it's just because like I justified it in my head. It's like, well, I'm not really trying to lose weight. Like,
well, then it was like for me like something really shifted because initially it was like I want to be like these women that this guy likes because I want this guy to like me. But more than that, I wanted to be desirable. And I think that was like the original cause. And like, and looking back, I'm like, this guy's a fucking idiot. I think about this and I'm like, it sounds so stupid. But then it became very quickly about control. It was not about him. It was not about the way I looked even. Like, I don't even, to this day, I don't even really like the way I look thinner. Like, I have no ass. I'm, like, cold all the time. Like, I have, like, lingering things I don't like because I lost weight that I didn't really need to ever lose. And it's, like, crazy to think about that, like, it was just the best form of control I could think of. Like, it was, I mean, and then even at the end of our relationship, he was like, you're too thin. And I was just like, you were the person that catalyzed all this. Like, you used to make comments about weight all the time and, like, now I don't. And then every guy I dated thereafter would say, do you eat? You're so thin. And it was just like, when is this ever going to be enough for any of you? Like, you're always all going to have a comment, like if I'm 20 pounds more or less. Like, it felt like having eating issues has been very closely tied to how I'm perceived in terms of like attractiveness. Eventually, when that kind of subsided, it's like I still couldn't lose the desire for control. Because now that I feel better about myself or I think I look better, it's like a crutch of control that like I still crave.
Yeah. There's so many different catalysts. Like for me, it was just like all I'd ever known was an insecurity in my weight. And so I never experienced anything like that where it's just like I equated my worth as like something determined by other people. I definitely can resonate with the fact that it just like evolves into something where you need control.
It was like something to do at times. Like it was like and I also liked food styling and cooking and baking. So then it was like finding different ways I could make things healthier, quote unquote, or no bake, fucking no bake, monk fruit, sugar, like shit that was just like, I remember my mom being like, thank God you are less weird about seed oils now, because that was another,
that was a big one.
It was like obsessiveness with things that I always ate that never had caused issues before, suddenly I was like, my stomach always hurts when I eat that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like, really? Because like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
Like, it was just not. And I also telling myself that too.
But you believe it.
Yeah.
You believe it.
It was just weird.
You know, another thing that was really interesting, I was thinking about this the other day. In that period, like when I was, you know, at my lowest weight, I didn't want to do anything that didn't have to do with food. I couldn't watch a movie if there wasn't food to focus on.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch a YouTube video if it didn't have to do with food.
Yeah.
I was entirely controlled by food.
Yeah.
I could not think about anything else. It's something that's just like kind of infinitesimal that I didn't really think about until now.
Yeah.
But I guess it really goes to show like your brain, it's just like the starved brain can really only fixate on one thing.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you've experienced this, but like it was like I'm still like this where like when I'm hungry, I am like intolerable to deal with because like I feel like my body is trying to like hang on to like weight. So I'm like insatiably hungry, or the eating in the night, like waking up. I mean, I never would wake up at like 4 a.m. hungry. I was always waking up in the middle of the night hungry, but so stupidly like not knowing why. Like I was like, because you're not getting enough fuel. Like you're hungry. I would eat almonds in the middle of the night. I remember just like having these really weird sleep habits that were constantly, I mean, I was always tired. So then I had a Zoom job and it was good because then I could just like lay down. Like then it became just where it was like walking, laying down, and then cooking these very small meals. And that was kind of my whole life.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, I look at like all that I do in New York now. And I'm like, but where I was like 2 years ago, like I was like home alone, just counting the hours till the next time I could eat. Like,
exactly.
And that felt like it was like the only thing keeping me afloat. Like if I was like, oh, I made
it's
it.
the only thing worth thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I started paying attention to like high protein, low cal a lot and realizing like, oh, it's just all about getting protein. So I could be full all the time.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's something I still really struggle with.
Yeah.
Like, trying to like extinguish in my head.
Yeah.
It's just so pounded in there.
Yeah.
And like, I still can't, like to this day, like it's hard to get rid of.
I think I tell myself like I'm very much over it because I eat a lot of sweets. I eat a lot of treats. I'll go walk to get ice cream or pastry. Or I don't refuse things now, really.
Yeah.
And it's like, that feels like it's like a milestone I've like reached.
You know, there's a little bit of that with me too, because my day to day is like going out to all these exciting restaurants and stuff like that. And it's like, I can say to myself in my head, like I'm free, like which isn't untrue.
Yeah.
But it, you know, that's not to say that I'm perfect. And that's not to say that like I have no work to do anymore.
Right.
And
like,
I think that that's like a big kind of thing that I have to really remind myself is like, you're not just off scot-free. It's going to be something you have to keep in your mind, like for the rest of your life.
Which annoys me because most people don't know that this is something I have to consider. Like, I mean, a weekend of eating with my boyfriend, for example, like he doesn't know that like I'll go back home and weigh myself then. Or like, times with my family, like holidays where I'm super sedentary and we're eating like twice as much as we normally do and it's cold out, like that I go home to New York and I'm going to feel like shit about myself then. And it's like untraining that is like literally the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Like it feels like it's something where I'm like, it feels so stupid and silly, but I'm so reliant on this form of thinking that it's like anytime I'd be somewhere else, I would think I can't wait to go home and like eat cereal or yogurt or like something that like my safe like meals.
Yeah. And you know, to some extent I still struggle with that like all the time.
Yeah.
I still think about that. It's just like, okay, you know, running through my head. It's just like I'm out at this, you know, exciting influencer dinner or whatever. I'm gonna have this much of this, and then I'm gonna have some yogurt when I get home or something.
Yeah, can you speak to that? Like how that's been to like
It's weird, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's like you have to be around food all the time.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, it's complicated because it has like kind of forced me to repair a lot of, and like work on and confront a lot of my problems with food. But it also just makes it hard to have to be around that all the time, you know?
Right.
It's not like I have to, but it's hard that I like subject myself to being around that all the time, because it's like, it's, again, I'm not like sensitive to it, but it's like, it's a thing in my head.
Because also I feel like everybody in the food community who I've met, like I feel like they have such like food freedom with the way that they eat 100%. And love food.
And it's like, it's at the start, it was really difficult to be around and see people like that. It's just like, I want to be you so bad. Yeah. You know?
I felt like I was going through this weird renaissance of self where I was like, just kind of like a bitch too. Like, I don't know if you felt like that, where like, I felt like mean and angry because I was hungry. Like there was like times where I'm looking back where I was like, why did I act like that? And I was like, you were fucking hungry. Like,
and that is so real. It's like, hunger is a state. It's way more than just a feeling. It is like a state of being.
Yeah.
And when you learn what that is, it's like crazy.
Looking back at that time, like I was rude to people who like loved me, and like I'm sort of just like a shitty version of myself. And not like an adult. Like in many ways I felt like a child because I was like policing myself all the time, but I needed like help, and I hated feeling like other people noticed that.
Mm-hmm. So you are undiagnosed. I think that there's a lot of value in the undiagnosed perspective. Mm-hmm. Can you shed some light on what the difference might be and why? I guess we kind of touched on that earlier with kind of justifying it in your head or making excuses like it's not bad, I'm not sick enough.
Right. I mean, I've always called it disordered eating. I've never called it an eating disorder.
Right.
So there was like a period of time, there were attempts to like, I was like, I'm trying to tell somebody this almost, or I'm trying to drop a hint, but I'm also trying to kind of hide it. Like I had to go to the gynecologist like last winter. And I remember thinking, I usually like weigh more on the scale there or something, like fucked up like thoughts about my weight there. And I didn't have a scale at the time in my house, but this is like so embarrassing. Like this is just like crazy. I had a food scale, but I didn't have like a real scale. And I remember like they wouldn't let me like weigh naked because they weigh you with clothes on, like obviously. And they used to rush me all the time, and I knew that I couldn't take my shoes off. So I put my shoes on this like scale that I used to use to make sourdough to weigh the shoes so that I could like get to the doctor and know exactly how much my clothes and shoes weighed so that I could subtract that from my weight so that I could know like my true weight, which was like, I'm like, wow. Like I knew there was something like wrong. Like I'm like, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. I'm like,
and it's like compulsive too.
Yeah. Like I'm like weighing like these like Corels on like a little thing because I know like I won't have time to take them off. And then it's, I guess, yeah. So the undiagnosed thing, to circle back to that, it's like I have these eating habits where like if I try to eat more, I'm really full quickly. Like I like walking now. Like it became, even then, now that it's
that's
less,
what it was like for me.
Now that it's less of a punishment, like do you feel like you're still like, but that was something I did every day. Like now I live in New York. I have to walk everywhere. Like
that was a big thing for me.
Like how have you weight restored, I guess? Like
it took a very long time to get there. I hadn't really weight restored up until like a couple months ago. But so I was holding on for dear life to, you know, a lower weight. Again, it feels like defeat admitting that the doctors are right when they say it's like you just need to weight restore and like you have like your brain works a different way.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to admit it's true, but it like is true.
Yeah. You'll never like untrain to not care.
It's like impossible.
It would also be like fake to admit that like your brain completely rewired. Because sometimes I look at food influencers who are like ED recovery accounts and they preach
just like my journey to freedom.
Yeah. And I'm just like, we all know that's not true. Anybody who's been through this.
No, because it leaves a stain.
And it doesn't need to like to rule your life anymore. Of course, there is a such thing as like real recovery. But when you make it seem as if it was like not even you and that this never pops into your head again, like that just feels to me like impossible. I mean, it's like it feels like you're lying to me to try to get clicks, to try, you know, whatever, or like.
And that's something that I've been really, I guess, weary of in going public with my ED experience. I just don't want it to feel like impression farming, and I don't, because I do really think from an objective point of view that my story, it like the way it has plot it out to like me having a career in food is interesting. You know, it's just like interesting, that pipeline.
And like in a very short window of time.
Yeah.
Like your
it was simultaneous.
Yeah.
While I was recovering, I was beginning a career in food.
Right.
So it's just, I think, just from an like objectively speaking, I think it's an interesting perspective that I can give. I just don't want it to, you know, feel like impression farming for me. So I've been really careful to not, I don't know, to try my best not to come off that way. But I think that, you know, the most that we can contribute is our perspectives, because it's like, as corny as it sounds, it's an individualized thing.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own truth, their own experience with it.
Right.
And, you know, there's no real way to just write out a description of an eating disorder and say this applies to everyone.
Yeah. I think, you know, you've never done sort of that like trauma porn type stuff where I felt like you were, it's like,
well, because it's not the point. It's not the
no,
point.
but I see that a lot, and I used to watch those TikToks a lot because I was like, well, I'm not sick like that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have those issues, and like, look at
No,
these like
I did the same, and it's just like
super
I
sick
don't
girls and-
want to contribute to that.
No, and I think your account has been really positive for me. Even like I watch your YouTube videos as like comfort, because it's like I want to see people enjoying things in a way that feels natural, but I also want to know that they get it. Like I think it helps to see people living their life like you, because it's like it doesn't feel like you're like, look at me, like I'm so recovered, like yay. It just feels like you're like a normal person in New York doing normal shit, like just like me, and like we're taking it like day by day. Like it doesn't feel like you owe people all these explanations. Like it pops up in your content, but it isn't your whole brand, and I think you do that well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's huge. The only other thing I would say is like a final sort of question for you is like, so circling back to the undiagnosed perspective.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like, I mean, this is kind of your first time confronting it and like opening up about it.
Yeah.
Do you think that you feel relief in kind of talking about, you know, your experience, and do you feel any sort of clarity in kind of addressing it for yourself? Maybe not confronting it, but addressing it.
Yeah, I think there was a part of me when you asked to do this that knew that if I said no, that was another problem in and of itself. Like, I felt like because I've worked to dispel any sort of like rumors about like eating issues or body image issues online, I see this as a way that it's like I'm being truest to myself and true to my followers, and that sort of pigeonholes me into being like getting real. Like what the fuck else am I gonna do now? Like I feel like with people closest to me who would watch this or listen to this, they would probably be like, oh, what? Like, am I gonna just like not tell anybody that like I just feel too old to keep some sort of like secret like this. Like it just feels like the main thing for me is also like, since moving here and getting happier and like being able to eat out with friends and like make more friends and just have people in my life who like beyond like family, it's gotten a lot better. So I think the final step for me would be to let go of like really like guilt, because I have what I feel like is like food freedom, but I still have guilt a lot. The ultimate recovery would be if I fully put the weight back on. And I think knowing that is like scary, but also like it's so cheesy, but like the first step's like talking about it. Letting go of that it's just like hard. It's hard.
It's scary.
It's more like I want people to understand that you can have these type of thoughts constantly following you.
It's the thoughts that are the problem.
It's not the number on the scale. It's not the way I look. Like, I don't think, you know, people realize like you don't need to look quote unquote unhealthy or too thin to have this issue. And I think it's like, yeah, it is. It's literally the thoughts that like I don't really know how to get rid of. I think real therapy, like maybe like CBT, etc. But like, has that helped you?
I think, you know, the biggest thing for me was just like, it took so long in therapy to like actually admit that I had an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And I think that like just admitting that to myself, it took probably like 7 or 8 months of just like therapy.
Even after you had been like inpatient.
yeah, inpatient. I moved home, like left school. I still could not admit to myself and fully accept, like, you know, that I had an eating disorder. Like I was saying, with all of the things that the professionals tell you, it just feels like, you know, they're gaslighting you by saying, this isn't your voice, this is your ED voice or whatever. It's just like you roll your eyes at it.
Yeah, I
and
hate
like,
when
okay,
people
fuck
say
you.
that. Yeah.
No, and I get it, but it's like, and because you're just being kind of like ambushed with all of that, they're saying like you need to weight restore, like all, you're being told all of these things that you just don't want to hear. It's just, you kind of like shut down. So it took me a long time to,
and you were probably getting it
crawl
from
out of
so
that.
many ends.
Well,
like,
yeah, because I was home with my parents who are incredibly protective. I was home, you know, in a family-based treatment.
Also, just can we talk about, like, I feel like you and I have like really good families. Like,
Yeah.
I think people think,
Oh my God.
like
my mom saved my life. She hopped on a flight and quite literally like saved my life.
And I think people often think like they associate like, oh, like they might, nobody looked after them, or they might come from a, you know, bad home life or whatever. And it's like, I didn't have an almond mom growing up. I didn't have, like, I was nurtured and loved and fed like so much. Like this came out of like nowhere for me pretty much.
And that's the thing. It's like, there doesn't have to be a why. It just like takes over. You know, it's like, why'd you become an alcoholic, or why'd you become a drug addict?
And I think that's a big thing. Like, you don't always need to look for explanations. You just need to move forward.
The only real way to kind of like, it sounds, there's like, it's so annoying, but to like destigmatize it or whatever is to just like not baby it. Don't treat it like it's something that, you know, you need to like pity, or it's just like, for me at least, it's a very objective thing. And I think that it's so important to look at it like that. Like, it's a disease, it's an illness.
I've always like, I think, looked to you and felt comfortable with you because you weren't like, so like, woe is me. And I didn't feel like you wanted my sympathy when we were going out, and you were clearly like weight restoring and like figuring yourself out. And I think like on like girl Twitter and like that part of online, it's, everyone is, you know, I'm so frail. It's kind of just like the jig is up. Like, I'm over it. Like, actually, like, I'm like 26 and like I'm hungry, and like I don't even like want to like pretend this is like cool, because it feels like fucking dumb.
And that's the thing. I just feel like coming at it with a neutral perspective that's like not driven by emotion is so important, because that emotional approach just like, it never resonated with me.
I get what you mean.
Just like look at things. I don't know. For me, that's something that really helped it click in my head and really helped me, you know, kind of admit my problem. It's just like, once I stopped listening to that, and like someone just sat me down and said, you're unhealthy. Like, you are unhealthy. Your brain isn't working right. It clicked. You know?
Because that's how you would approach almost any other thing in life that was an issue. I mean, we had this, someone in my family had like brought this up to a cousin of mine, like, does Erica even eat in New York? Like, I see her Instagram post, she looks so thin. And it was just because then it's like confirmation, like, I look skinny. Like, it worked. But
sick and twisted.
I think people are afraid to say things like that and make a little bit of a joke and make light of certain things, because it's not a joke.
I think that that's my favorite part, is that I make jokes about being anorexic all the time.
I think the MyFitnessPal jokes, all the stuff, it's like,
literally, I mean,
be fucking real. Like, you were there, I was there. Because it was just, that also never really worked for me. It never really stuck. I think I was like literally lazy. As much as I just said I was like obsessive about like OCD about things, I was like, I hate this app. And I also like, it just felt like too...
I came out with a full index of calories in my head.
I'm sure.
It's still in there. I have a photographic memory.
Do you?
Yeah, I literally have like it's like an ADHD thing.
But that actually like checks out, considering how like successful you've been at like your brand, like, and like, no, like your career, because also like recipes and like doing.
Have you noticed since I've been medicated, my grid is no longer all like uniform?
Wait, I actually love this new era for you. Also, I think it's like very evident that you have like come out of something, because
and I think that it's so like funny and like interesting to scroll back and then just like watch my kind of recovery kind of go down on,
because you were, I feel like there was like the like sort of like Tumblr core, like darker, like whatever, you know, and it's like we've all had like different aesthetics and phases, and now you're like, it's like you're like blonde in the bimbo shit in the park, and I'm like, wait, like I kind of love this, because it's like there's something like your spirit is like different.
And that's the thing. It's like kind of how I mentioned in the beginning. It's just like, it took me so long to get myself back.
Yeah.
That's what that is. I'm an artist. I'm, you know, like a very playful person.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I just like completely lost that.
Yeah.
Completely lost it.
And I'm sure everybody
And
around you is like noticed you.
my parents were visiting last week, and, you know, my mom said, I'm so happy to have you back.
Yeah.
And that just like, it made me tear up.
Yeah. No, literally. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
But yeah, I do really feel like back,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah. And now it's like you're gonna be traveling. Like you're so I think it's also just seeing everything that you're doing is like amazing to me, because I like know you wouldn't have been able to do that a couple of years ago. Like watching your brand take off, watching your food Instagram take off. Like I was like, if anybody deserves this, like it's you. And it's not because you were like enduring something bad or whatever. It's because you have talent. And it's like seeing you get recognized for that. Like that's also stuff you wouldn't have been able to produce and do if you were sick. And like that's cool to see. I don't know.
Thank you. I don't know how to take a compliment. Thank you.
No, just let it happen. You're like always like that though. I feel like sometimes we talk and you'll just be like, sure, whatever. But that's why we're friends, because half the time I'm just like, ugh, like, okay. Literally on the way here, I was like, these dirty people in Times Square. Like, just like I can be a little rude and like a little.
Oh my God, I just noticed you have like a pasta stain on your shirt. Let me go get the Tide pen.
Wait, no, I don't think Tide will work for this. I think we need to just. Okay, wait. Ah! No, this is a new shirt. I told you not to let this happen. Wait, you have it on video. Me like wrapping up like.
Oh God. Wait, you brought biscotti.
Yeah, wait, try it. That was like my 9/11. But cheers. These are good. I think the chocolate drizzle, if you want, would level it up. Like I did a little sea salt and chocolate on mine.
I honestly just like.
You like them plain?
I just love like biscotti.
I like plain things. Like I love cracker. I'm a big that's why you dry cereal. I like dry food. Like I'm like a dog, cat. Dude, I eat like my nighttime biscuits. Like I feel like, do you not do that? What do you eat before bed? Cereal. Fucking cereal. What do you eat? What do you eat when you wake up?
Cereal.
What do you eat for? We can like put the mics down. Like how has this affected your digestive system? Like when it's just cereal and yogurt.
Fine.
Well, think about it. Good bacteria and probiotics, and then like fiber.
Because now I'm on like Cheerios. It's literally just oats. I'm not eating garbage.
You're talking about this like it's like a drug.
I literally will eat like an entire container of Greek yogurt, and it's like I'm not full.
Greek yogurt for breakfast. Greek yogurt for breakfast is I'm hungry in 1 hour. I never feel full from Greek yogurt or oatmeal. When people are like, eat these foods to feel full in the morning.
I know.
You know what fills me up in the morning? Like a bagel with peanut butter. Like I need
literally. And it's like,
because if you're having coffee, yogurt is like not absorbing anything. I'm like, it feels like there's a hole in my stomach.
What a lovely conversation.
Oh, that's what you wanted to. How do you want to wrap it?
Oh yeah.
Well, let me like. Okay, I'm like chewing, but
no, I think this was a really good. I'm actually like incredibly happy to have this conversation because we've been friends for a couple of years now.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, I didn't expect us to have just so like much to bounce off of each other, because I was like, these are opposite stories, basically.
I know, and I didn't really, because you had kind of prefaced it with that, like we have very different experiences.
Right.
I think
I kept thinking like you severe, me like nothing really.
But we really do share so much, you know,
so many
similarities in our experiences.
Yeah. It's wow. I hope this I hope people can
if
hear
it
this.
all I want is it for just like to resonate with someone.
Me too, because I think it's like it shows there's so much commonality and like in the, I don't know, similar struggles, but also it can look so many different ways for so many different people.
Yeah, because you hear people say it's incredibly individual. It's like it's really important to kind of tear apart our experiences, dissect them a little bit, and then find, you know, what is similar between them.
I also think people, I guess in closing, people associate eating disorders with like 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing to also showcase that it's like, it's not just women. And also for me, like I'm 26, like, and I know a lot of adult women with like adult eating disorders, and that affects so much. Like that later on can affect like having children and the way that like you live your life. So it's like, yeah, it's really good we did this. I don't know. This was nice. This is great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for hanging out.
Bye. Oh, thank you.
That was beautiful.
I know.